So let's continue with our medical chats here on A Health Tuesday, and that's ultimately when we talk medicine, we're talking ultimately about your holistic health. And let's get real, get honest for a moment, Joe. It's been a long winter, and of course with that, he says with a little cough in his voice comes a lot of comfort food. And if you're looking to do a bit of a spring clean of your own system, a bit of a detox, don't go anywhere, because we've got our registered dietitian Megan Pentz-Kluyts in studio to give us the scoop on what to do and what not to do if we are wanting to do a bit of a cleanse, a detox. Megs, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us. This is a really interesting one, because I think it's as much a mental expression of cleansing our body as it is a physical process to go through. Maybe the best place to start is looking at our diet and how, because that's generally the best place to start. Yes. What is the best dietary approach to a detox, do you think, in your experience, vast experience?
Okay, great. Yes, no, but detox is a really big buzzword, and it also lays a lot of claims to what it's able to do. The one thing a person needs to remember is that a detox can be quite difficult to follow and very often to maintain. And then what happens is you've done it for a while, the wheels come off, you regain that weight, the energy levels go down again. So exactly. So what I would recommend, is a more an approach that is more long-term. And in that instance, looking at starting with ensuring an adequate intake of, seasonal fruit and vegetables, which is great. So you've got a great amount of vitamins and minerals there and all your antioxidants. Then moving into including whole grains in your diet, something like oats, for example, is a great one to include, high in fiber. It also helps to clean out the system. And then moving to making sure you have enough protein. So then we're looking at foods like your eggs, you're looking at your fish, you're looking at pulses, for example. Those are all great options as well, and yogurts. And then we must not forget to include healthy fats. And I think sometimes that's where, detox really does forget to include things like omega-3 rich fats.
Our brain desperately needs.
Yeah, and also how we're preparing, so our foods and so on. So looking at something like the BWELL, canola olive oil, which is great because it's got your canola oil, your canola itself, which is high in omega-3, then your olive taste, which everyone loves, and the monounsaturated fats, which are great as well. So it's a great way to actually then rather approach your detox like that.
And ultimately, it's about looking at the layers, so looking at your gut health, looking at your energy levels. I am going to broach something that is, you talk about being a buzzword. This has been around for a while, and it seems to kind of rear its head. Maybe I'm talking about it in too much of a negative sense, but juice diets. I tried a juice diet, not just with an aim of detoxing, but just to experience it for myself. I was probably the hangriest individual on the face of the planet, but if you go about it in the right way, it can have benefits. But how do you feel from a purely a health perspective about juicing and juice diets? Because we've seen it kind of come in multiple forms as well.
Absolutely. So quite rightly so. At this point in time, we don't really see there's any added benefits to juicing. And so if everyone's really clear on what juicing is, it's basically removing all the pulp. So the pips and the peel and the pulp and everything. And you're left with the vitamins and the minerals. And you
essence.
Yes. But also remember, because of that, you're left with a much higher sugar content. And so it doesn't mean you can't include it as part of your healthy, a diet in terms of 5 fruit and vegetables a day, one of your servings coming from juice.
Supplementing a meal, yeah.
But it would be really nice if you looked at rather blending. In other words, throwing in the whole fruit and just blending it and making it into more like a smoothie. Then you're getting the added benefit of the fiber as well, and that would be my recommendation.
I mean, either that, or you can just take a bite out of the apple and chew it. Another big trend at the moment, it's the big if around intermittent fasting. And this, I've spoken to people who have had incredible results, but not necessarily from just doing it and then unplugging, but from maintaining a shift in the way that they approach their own eating habits. How do you feel about IF?
So yes, there's a lot of evidence coming out at this point. I think the jury is still out in terms of weight loss. But what we are seeing is that just, intermittent fasting has a lot to do with, controlling the times that you eat. So it also has various definitions. In terms of just an example, you might fast or eat very little for 2 days, and then for the next 5 days, you have 3 healthy meals a day. Some people find it to be quite beneficial. Genetics do play a role on how some people respond. My recommendation would be is if you're going to go for it, then just make sure you speak to your healthcare practitioner to make sure that it's balanced.
Just feeding off that, and this is a little off script a bit, but with understanding your genes, because that seems to be coming up more and more as well,
Yes.
understanding what works for your specific body, do you recommend a person goes to do a bit of investigating in that space when approaching their diet?
I think very often, especially people that are battling or feeling they're going from one diet to another, that can actually really benefit them to get a better idea of what their body is telling them and why maybe they were struggling, and then also to help them to shift into a place where they actually are seeing better results.
Information is power. Just very quickly then, maybe your top detox tips that you apply for yourself.
Okay, maybe just 3. So firstly, starting with, I would say, whole foods, moving away from any type of ultra processing where they're adding loads of sugar and types of saturated fats, etc. That's really a good way to start. Then don't exclude any food groups unless you have been told that you've got an allergy or an intolerance, because you might be leaving out something essential. Like if you're leaving out dairy, you might be leaving out calcium. So make sure that you're then looking at supplementation in some other way. And then lastly, once again, of course, we buy all these great foods, but then how we prepare them plays a very important role.
We boil all of the goodness out of it.
Exactly. So your cooking methods, looking at dry methods like grilling is great, and baking, and then looking at something like sautéing or stir frying. And there again, I would really recommend that you use something like even the BWELL grapeseed oil, because it has a high smoking point, healthy, maintains its nutritional value and taste, etc. And it's also endorsed by the Heart and Stroke Foundation.
Healthy fats, a little bit of everything, and balance.
Yes.
But it's all part of the process of learning about yourself. No one person is the same in personality or in the way that their system works. So I think just spend the time to figure out how your beautiful mechanism that is your body actually comes together. Megan, thank you so much for this wealth of information. I don't know about you guys at home, but I am ready to give the body a little bit of a spring clean, but make sure that that spring clean becomes an all year round clean. And hopefully we've given you just a few little tidbits here on how you can approach a constant process of detox and rejuvenation within your own body.